going on, everybody? I'm gonna give you guys a chance to come into the conversation. We got a real good discussion for you guys, and I'm not gonna say a whole lot until it's time to say a whole lot. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and there are some topics happening in the Black community that I think we all think, I hope we all agree, should be addressed, should be discussed. And the person that I was able to get the distinct pleasure of getting to join me to talk about these topics is the one and only, the extraordinary Miss Vicki Dillard. Vicki is a proud contributor to the Fly Nubian Queen Network. She is also a respected friend and colleague, and just an awesome all-around woman. So Vicki, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dr. Boyce. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well, extremely well. Like I think this conversation is really one that's that needs to be had. I think it's one that people don't talk about much. Mainstream media will never have this discussion. And as you always reference Black media, you always talk about how Black media is so important in terms of having the conversations that don't get had on mainstream media. And so first, before we get started, though, I want to welcome everybody and say hi. And you guys know on drboycetv.com, this is a home for intelligent Black people. So if you're Black and intelligent, then shout it out, something, say something smart, or at the very least, shout out your city, your business, and your dream. Your city, your business, and your dream, or you could shout out one of the three, all three, whichever route you choose to go. I see Jambria's in here, Jamil and Lakeisha. Let's see, I see Tanya Shaw, Marlon, Jeffrey, Zane, Beyond Words, Ray. How you doing? Sharon. I see Nita. Is that Yaz Poet? Okay, so he retracted his message. John Reed, good guy. What's going on? And I see Vladimir over on Black Knowledge. Black Knowledge is the page on Facebook. Everybody should join. They have 700,000 people on these pages. Now, Vicki, one thing I was telling people is that pages like Black Knowledge and the African History Network, which we actually all of us, we partner together to reach as many Black folks as possible. I was telling Michael Imhotep and Jamal Brewer, who runs Black Knowledge, and Michael runs African History Network. I told them, I said, those big platforms, that's kind of like our version of a CNN or a CBS and ABC and NBC. What do you think? Can you kind of speak to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is so important now because we always discuss, Dr. Boyce, how we are at war, and one of the ways war is waged against us is through media. So when you have strong platforms like this one, Your Black World, and other social media platforms that you have, and the ones that you just mentioned, like Black Knowledge and the African Network, that helps us to actually be able to effectively wage war, because we turn around and get to control the narrative on our end. And so that's the beauty of it. And now we're also seeing the power of the new Black media, because of things we've been discussing surrounding the Black agenda, which includes reparations and other things that are important to Black people. Guess what, Doc? They're now on the lips of presidential candidates. They're now on the lips of mainstream news. They're trying to hijack the narrative and change the conversation. So we're making a big difference, and that's why it's so extraordinarily important. And so shout out to each of you that do that.
Yeah, well, when it comes to things like reparations, and I agree with you. I don't know if you guys have been following, that mainstream media wasn't talking about reparations. So people online and Black media started talking about reparations, and then suddenly mainstream media started talking about it. And that's the way it's supposed to go, Vicki. They're not supposed to be leading us. We're supposed to be leading them, right?
Well said.
Yeah, so I give credit to people like yourself and others, with Fly Nubian Queen and other networks who are out here doing the work. And if you guys don't watch Vicki, she's live Monday through Friday on FlyNubianQueenTV.com at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And believe me, she lights it up every single night. So everybody who's watching, please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't hit the thumbs up button. And Vicki, if you don't mind, I'm gonna shout out some of the cities that I put in here. If you your city, your business, or your dream, so everybody knows what you're up to. Jamil's from New Orleans. I see Lennon. I see Squandered Turtle from Minneapolis, a restaurant owner. Okay, I see Juwan from Atlanta. Toriano, voice operated interactive software. That's nice. Shalisha, hello, how you doing? Rated R Radio. Gary Wallace said gang gang. Okay. All right, gang back at you. Intelligent Black people gang. So that's the scariest gang in the history of all mankind. John Doe from Palm Beach. Street Strong from Niagara Falls, New York. Let me see here. I see Lily Dove says, hello, Chicago. Jason from Brooklyn. I see O.B. Murray from, I think he's from Ohio. And James Fulltrell. And let's see who else I see there. Kelly Phillips and Kevin and Dalton and Nunamaker. Okay, so now that we've introduced ourselves and gotten to know each other again, everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. Let's do that as we get started on the count of three. I want everybody who has not hit the thumbs up button or shared the video to your Facebook page to please do one of those 2 or 3 things, or do them all. Do them all.
Yes.
So let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, great. All right. So Vicki, you and I got together. We were talking today, and you had on a brother that I just think is amazing, Dr. Wesley Muhammad on FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com, who always sets it up. You know, he's like that last line of defense, you know, for protecting the image of the black man and black woman in America.
Yes.
He gives us knowledge that nobody else does. He's an amazing black man. And after you got done, I reached out and I was telling you about something that I saw about a man by the name. Now I want you guys to write down this name, but type it in. His name is Jeffrey Epstein. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Epstein is a very wealthy man. Some say he's a billionaire, some say he's not. Whether he's a billionaire or not, you know, you get that rich, it doesn't really matter. You know, if your rocket ship goes up in the sky, it doesn't matter if you reach the moon or if you went, 1,000 yards past the moon or 1,000 yards in front of the moon. Who cares, right? So he's worth a lot of money. He may be a billionaire, he may not be, but we know he's got a lot of money. He's actually got one of the biggest houses actually in all of New York. And anyway, it turns out Jeffrey Epstein is, according to most estimates, according to the court of law, he is a predator. He's the white R. Kelly, basically. Jeffrey Epstein's been accused of abusing many underage girls. Jeffrey Epstein has been convicted of such crimes. And so it's not me speculating on this. This is what has been proven. This is what's being, stated consistently in the media. So here's what's interesting. Jeffrey Epstein is not just a regular guy. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein is connected to a lot of very well-known, very well-respected celebrities. He's connected to a lot of very well-known, very well-respected politicians. He's connected with a lot of folks that, they have, tons of money and power and influence. Everybody from Donald Trump to Bill Clinton, maybe even Oprah and Gayle themselves.
Come on.
So do you know, tell me what you have read about Jeffrey Epstein in the time that you've had a chance to look into his background.
Yes, sir. Well, precisely what you said, we're finding out based on this particular article. One of them I just pulled up was from Miami Herald, and the Miami Herald is implicating it really putting an emphasis on attorney Alan Dershowitz. And attorney Alan Dershowitz was not only a good friend of Epstein and one of the most powerful attorneys that was assisting him, he is being named in this new litigation as actually being responsible for violating and molesting and really raping another young lady as well. It includes him, mind you, Dr. Boyce, Alan Dershowitz is a political commentator. He is right now on the Sunday shows, they still bring him on. Right now on CNN, right now on Fox News, he still is a voice, and they have not apparently pulled his contract because he's still on there. This is the man that has been named in this and has been for over years, but now it's taken, it's gone to another level by him being included in that. Then this other article from the Daily Beast, this was a really interesting, and you shared this one. This is what's getting me, Dr. Boyce, on the one for the Daily Beast, is its connection to basically the long and short is Jeffrey Epstein, instead of having the name, because it looks bad when you are a rapist. It looks bad when you're running around with a name predator, you understand, and a molester of children and a pedophile. So he is undergoing essentially a massive PR campaign. And so one of the things he's doing is giving a whole lot of money to a number of different charities, according to the Daily Beast here. And I'm not sure if you're going to read some of this or not, but it's talking about billionaire pedophile. It says Jeffrey Epstein may have stopped trumpeting his $1 million donations to charities in light of accusations he molested dozens of girls. But it breaks down the fact that they used an organization called Gratitude America Limited, which was launched in 2012 to back organizations around the world to seek to celebrate the United States of America and American ideals. So basically, they're using this charitable organization and they're funneling those monies from Epstein into some of these different organizations and people. And it's here, according to the article, it says Epstein apparently needed some favorable news to change the narrative. That's why I said he's undergone a new PR campaign and embarked on a public relations crusade that depicted him as a renowned science philanthropist rather than a convicted sex offender. It says, not to be confused with Gratitude America, Inc., a Florida nonprofit for veterans. Epstein's latest private foundation doesn't appear to have a website or online presence. The only traces of the group lie in tax returns, Dr. Boyce. So it's talking about how they're doing that, and here, and it says that the review of a tax returns reveals Epstein's foundation donated at least $1.84 million to a host of causes. And when you look into those that he has put those monies into, it's some very questionable and some very high-powered people.
Okay, everybody, I'm talking to Vicki Dillard, and we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, who is a noted billionaire who is who was convicted for basically being the white R. Kelly. You know, that's pretty much what he is. He's R. Kelly times 10, it sounds like, in terms of his behavior. Now, what's fascinating about Jeffrey Epstein is that, you know, he has a deep connection to a lot of celebrities. I don't know if he and Oprah are friends, but given, you know, the circle gets small in that space, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they cross paths. I'd be stunned if Oprah did not know about him. You know, and what's fascinating about him is that what makes him worse than an R. Kelly is that he's been accused of actually not just engaging in the solicitation of underage girls, he's pimping them. I mean, that's what I mean. Literally,
come on.
In reading, they're basically laying it out like he's supplying women to famous men.
Come on.
You're a famous man and you want to get your freak on with a young girl, he will go and he's part of the network that will go and make it happen for you. Is that, I mean, did I read that right? Like they when they threw in Alan Dershowitz's name, and Dershowitz is an interesting guy because Dershowitz, if you recall, is the guy who was going hard at Farrakhan.
Come on.
Trying to take down the minister and act like the minister Farrakhan was the guy who everybody should be worried about and the guy that nobody should like and nobody should support. When this man is connected, I mean, his name is being used consistently in a very messy way, involving some underage women. So this man is not just sort of an island by himself. He's deeply rooted. He's connected. So let me ask you this. So, you know, in terms of Dershowitz, I'm gonna read some of this to you in terms of, you know, sort of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal backgrounds and stuff like that, and some of the accusations he's faced. And remember, just again, if you want to understand how what he is, and to me, he sounds like the white R. Kelly. They said in March 2005, a woman contacted the Palm Beach Police Department and alleged that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been taken to Epstein's mansion by an older girl. She was allegedly paid $300 to strip and massage Epstein. She had allegedly undressed but left the encounter wearing her underwear. Police began an 11-month undercover investigation of Epstein, followed by a search of his home. The FBI also became involved. Subsequently, the police alleged that Epstein had paid several escorts to perform sex acts on him. Interviews with 5 alleged victims and 17 witnesses under oath, a high school transcript, and other items found in Epstein's trash and home allegedly showed that some of the girls involved were under 18. The police searched Epstein's home and found large numbers of photos of girls throughout the house, some of whom the police had interviewed in the course of their investigation. The International Business Times reported that papers filed in 2006 in a lawsuit alleged that Epstein installed concealed cameras in numerous places. Remember R. Kelly? Remember they talked about R. Kelly? And again, we ain't nobody in here. I'm sorry. I don't know how you feel. I know Vicki has her own opinion on it, but I will tell y'all straight up, I'm not here saying that anything that R. Kelly is alleged to have done is okay. I'm just sitting here trying to ask Oprah and Gayle.
Come on.
So when you going after these black men and saying we need to get rid of these black men are the most dangerous men in society, and Oprah's going after a dead man, I don't know how many rape victims you protecting when you going after a dead man. How many kids can Michael Jackson molest in a casket? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. She spent all this energy going after a dead man. You got living human beings walking the earth.
Come on.
With power and money and access, who are doing all kinds of horrible things. And Oprah quiet as a mouse on that. Ain't got nothing to say about that. But she want to get all ethical and moral when it comes to now taking out a dead man. You're getting a break. So let me keep reading some of this to you, Vicki. And now I'd love to get your take on this. So the International Business Times reports that papers filed in 2006 in a lawsuit alleged that Epstein installed concealed cameras in numerous places on his property to record sexual activity with underage girls by prominent people for criminal purposes, such as blackmail. So he wasn't just, it sounds like he ain't just a crook. He's a crook that robs other crooks or a criminal of criminals. It's like I'm gonna set you up with the underage girl and then I'm going to record it without you knowing it. So I'm violating the violator. That's crazy to me. So he says Epstein allegedly loaned girls. So he had a little. Wow. He had a. This is crazy. I'm flipping out as I'm reading this. It sounds so. He has this vagina bank, and like the same way you go to Bank of America and you say, "Can I borrow some money for my business?" You went to him if you wanted to borrow a woman's body. Wow. And so Epstein allegedly loaned girls to powerful people to ingratiate himself with them and to also gain possible blackmail information. And that's why I tell these men, Vicki, be careful, like what you get involved with, because that's something people can hold over your head later on. Because you remember, even with the R. Kelly stories, I think they talked about that, guys would come into the studio, allegedly, there'd be some young girl in there and they say, oh, well, she's taking care of everybody, and so people get tangled up in that nonsense. And so this is interesting. Again, the white R. Kelly, it sounds like. So in 2015, evidence came to light that one of the powerful men at Epstein's mansion may have been Prince Andrew, Duke of York.
Wow.
Yeah, a former employee told police that Epstein would receive massages 3 times a day. Eventually, the FBI received accounts from 36 girls whose allegations of molestation by Epstein included overlapping details. Okay, so there's more about the white R. Kelly who ran the vagina bank, but I'm going to stop because there's so much to absorb here. We'll get to Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard professor, in a minute. But Vicki, based on what I've read so far, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is that he has nothing on R. Kelly. My thoughts are, when we think about a pimp, the first thing that we think about is what? We have the image of a who in our mind? Of a black man, right? And so, family, this is what gets me. This is the power of images, again, Dr. Boyce, and the power of Hollywood and roles that we play, and also contributions that those in the hip hop community have contributed to these negative images of us around the world. Family, if there was ever a such thing as a pimp, this is 1 times a million on steroids. This man, and what makes it so interesting is not just the violation of these young girls. Not only was it the rape of these young girls, the molestation of these different women, it was also with very powerful men, allegedly. And again, he has been actually convicted of many of these crimes, but credible evidence has come out that is connected very powerful men that have ties, Dr. Boyce, to the judiciary, to the court, attorneys who are officers of the court as well. Don't forget the senator out of Alabama who was running for senator, right? And he ended up losing. And Trump supported him, right? And he was credibly alleged to be a pedophile and going after these young girls in the state of Alabama. My point is, he was already a judge while he was running, Dr. Boyce, for Senate, which means that those who are enforcing the laws and your lawmakers are also your lawbreakers. And they're the ones that are making decisions about your sons and your daughters. You understand what I'm saying? While behind the scenes, they're involved and they're connected to stuff like this. Talk about who's being pimped for real. How many of us would properly put on the label calling this man a disgusting pimp? And that's the reason why Black media is important, so that we can call out the real pimp, just like we need to call out the real gangsters. It's not the Nipsey hustles and those that were maybe running the streets for a short period of time for over a block, when you have the real gangsters that are fighting unjust wars around the world, that's taking over nations and land and pimping people of their natural resources. This is in a similar way related to the exploitation and the rape of these women, but it should be very disturbing, the connections that it has to these powerful men and individuals that make decisions over your life. That is what I find so extraordinarily dangerous, Doc.
Well, I think it's dangerous also, and I think it's also dangerously racist in the sense that they want to put out these Lifetime documentaries and act like that this kind of behavior only exists in the Black community. They want people to say, oh, we need to get rid of the Black men because the Black men are doing all this. A lot of the Black men who do this type of stuff, a lot of them learned it from the white men. It's I mean, really, this is some epic, unbelievable stuff that this man's being accused of. And you can see here, I'm gonna show you guys a picture from the Daily Beast, and you can see a picture of Epstein's there. He's wearing a Harvard. Harvard receives money from this man, a convicted pedophile.
Come on.
So the convicted pedophile gives money to Harvard, and Alan Dershowitz, his little buddy, is in there too. Now let me read some of this to you guys. Everybody, hit the thumbs up button while I pull this up. Please hit the thumbs up button, and also if you want to get a text notification when we go live on Dr. Boyce TV, please text the word voice to 31996. Text voice to 31996. All right. So so listen to this. Famed attorney Alan Dershowitz. Remember Dershowitz, the Harvard lawyer who's on all these TV networks.
Yes.
Who went out of his way to go after Louis Farrakhan to try to discredit the minister.
Yes.
Alan Dershowitz was accused of involvement in billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring by an attorney for one of Epstein's victims, who claimed in federal court on Wednesday that the release of sealed documents will prove it. Paul Cassell, who represents Virginia Roberts Guthrie, told the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit that the testimony of other witnesses will show Dershowitz's involvement in the alleged trafficking of his close friend Jeffrey Epstein. When all the records come out, it will show that Epstein and Epstein's alleged madam, Maxwell, were trafficking girls to the benefit of his friends, including Mr. Dershowitz. Cassell said in oral arguments for a case filed by the Miami Herald to unseal a collection of court documents, et cetera, et cetera. The hearing came nearly 2 weeks after a Florida judge ruled that federal prosecutors violated the law when they inked a non-prosecution deal with Epstein in 2007 and concealed that agreement from more than 30 of Epstein's victims. The Department of Justice has opened an investigation into the secret deal, which was handled by Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta, who was U.S. Attorney in Miami at that time. Dershowitz, a Harvard law professor, was one member of Epstein's legal team that helped to broker the deal. So it sounds to me that that they are a lot of these guys are just partners in crime.
Yes.
They do dirt together, and then they help each other get out of the dirt. Now I want you to compare and contrast this to this. I want you all to give me your opinions on this. Give me your take on this. Everybody make a comment. Tell us what you think. Now here we're hearing about this wealthy white man and all his buddies, being accused of unbelievable things with lots of evidence, videotape, receipts everywhere, of them touching underage girls, doing all kinds of illegal stuff. Epstein's sentence was nothing. Epstein's sentence was basically, I think, about 13 months in not even real prison. He had to he had to sleep in the jail, but he could be free for 16 hours a day. He was out of jail 16 hours a day and only in jail for 8 hours a day. Now, compare that. Everybody compare this. Bill Cosby.
Come on.
Right now. Yes. The 80-something-year-old man is
blind
right now.
Legally blind, sitting in jail right now with three, 4, 5. How many years he get? A bunch of years that he got. I think it was 10 years, or was it 5? I forgot his sentence is like. Somebody remind me what exactly his sentence was. But he's been about 3 years at least. I know that before he can go for parole, if I'm not mistaken, for allegedly touching a woman's breast. Come on.
And there's no proof of it whatsoever. No proof at all. Also, he paid this woman $3.5 million. So So Cosby is going to jail all this time for allegedly doing something for which there is no proof. Here you have a white male who
Yes.
did far worse and has receipts everywhere, proof everywhere, and gets almost nothing.
Yes.
Vicky, your thoughts?
You're right. I just put up an article from CNN, and they're saying he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for federal assault. Bill Cosby, again related to Andrea Constant. She's allegedly a woman at his home 14 years ago. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, by faith we take that. Okay, but anyway, Dr. Boyce, it speaks to exactly what you said about the racist elements of this. Here we have this man who was basically essentially on what's considered to be like a work release program for a hot minute for raping. That's what it is, for raping a multitude of young girls, and served as a pimp for them to be further exploited and raped by other men as well. This is who we're dealing with. And he gets really nothing. And that is how we're seeing the system of white supremacy play out. And this is the reason why we talk a lot about on my show, hashtag how the whole damn system, that's what my folks put on, the whole damn system is guilty. And when we say damn, we mean in really even a God a righteous indignation sense, that it is damned the system and it is working the way they made it to work. And that is for their privilege, for their benefit, and against us. Again, there is no more stark example than the one you just mentioned, and that is Bill Cosby. How do you have an 80-some-year-old blind man from 14-year-old allegations of a woman that he'd already paid multiple millions of dollars to? And even though there's other evidence, Dr. Boyce, that was out there, including one of her roommates, that said that she got what she wanted because she had planned this, and allegedly she's a lesbian too as well, that she had planned this in order to extract money from him, essentially over a boob job and something involving finger work. Are you hearing me? That's what this is. And this man is getting up to a decade, up to 10 years in prison over this, even though they had a settlement, multi-million-dollar settlement agreement, and clearly she must need some more money. So this is what we are discussing. And just like you would say, who's going to reach over $100 bill to pick up a penny, right? In the same way, who's going to reach over $100 bill to pick up a penny? Okay, you're saying that you're concerned about prosecuting folks that are coming against, Black folk, and you want to hold the R. Kellys accountable and all these different people accountable. But you reach over this massive number of white men that's involved in whether it's the Catholic Church, whether it's the IMF, the International Monetary Fund head. Do you know that the former International Monetary Fund head, Strauss-Kahn is his name, Dr. Boyce? He was in line to be France's next president. He was accused of they caught him basically forcing this African immigrant maid to forcing her to do, oral job on him basically. And he was very rough and very violent. She didn't wait around like the white girls did when they said, I was concerned about my job and I just couldn't tell anybody. And I was just so traumatized to tell anyone that he complimented my dress and that he wanted to take me to dinner. No, she didn't. She went, she reported it. And before Strauss-Kahn tried to get off, Dr. Boyce, he was on the tarmac. He was on the plane and they came and got him. But guess what happened, Doc? Right after that, they found out there was some sort of connections that he had and his folks had in the DA's office. Magically, the charges were dropped. He ended up doing a multi-million-dollar civil settlement with the woman that he violated, that he raped. And then they found out that he had a whole other history of sexual perversion and sexual deviancy. And so he obviously was no longer in the running to become France's next president. But this man was the former head, Dr. Boyce, of the International Monetary Fund. Now let's add Donald J. Trump, not to mention the more than a dozen credible accusers. Let's put the accusers to the side, right? They may be telling the truth, they may not be, right? We have him on audio video, right, Dr. Boyce, telling us what he does to sexually assault a woman and how because of his status, he's allowed to do so. So let's just put what they say to the side. We can just take his word for it. Now, if that wasn't enough, his first wife in a legal deposition, Dr. Boyce, testified under oath, Doc, his first wife, that Donald Trump raped her. And then later, we found that something took place to where they tried to get her to walk it back under pressure. But that is still in the legal files today. What am I saying? I'm saying that America, white America, 53% of white women, the Me Too crowd, and an even larger percent of the so-called evangelical white women, those that claim that they love Jesus, those women, in an even larger number than the 53 to 56% of the general population that voted for Donald Trump, voted for him. These white women cape for their men. White women cape for their men, notwithstanding all of this. So we are seeing that America rewards them to the highest office of the land, to the highest courts of the land. But they're going to reach down and try to tell us, let's go after Bill Cosby. Let's go after Chris Brown. Of course, they found out what the Chris Brown situation was, a big old hoax, and he's turned around suing the young lady. Remember that? And Eve and other Black women and voices were using that, immediately trying to come after them, right? Only to find out that based on what we've seen, is not true. What am I saying? I'm saying they are trying to make the Black man the face of white sexual deviancy, white pedophilia, and some other inappropriate and sexual debauchery. And we must be aware of that agenda and call it out.
Everybody who's listening, I'm speaking with Miss Vicki Dillard from FlyNubianQueenTV.com, and we're speaking about the case of Jeffrey Epstein, who is a very wealthy man who has ties to a lot of other wealthy, powerful individuals at the highest rungs of society. And Jeffrey Epstein is pretty much what I call the white R. Kelly, because he has been basically implicated in massive sex trafficking, to rich and powerful men, including individuals like Donald Trump, et cetera. And I find it funny that Oprah and Gayle can go after, they go after the Black men, they go after the dead Michael Jackson, but they won't go after guys like this. And these are people that run in the same circles. And so, again, I think it's very disingenuous when people want to have what I call selective morality, or selective outrage, right? Selective outrage is when you're extremely outraged when a Black man allegedly does something, but when a white man does it, you just kind of look the other way, just like, oh, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Everybody hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done that yet. Please hit the thumbs up button. Also, please subscribe at drboystv.com. And if you want to support intelligent Black media, we'd love for you to become a patron and support what we're doing. So you can go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Now, speaking with Vicki Dillard from FlyNubianQueenTV.com. So look up Vicki Dillard on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter and follow her, because she's really got every single day. Vicki's got something interesting to talk about, literally every day. So Vicki, let me read something else. You talk about cases to compare it to. One case I compare it to also, when I look at Jeffrey Epstein, who was accused, literally, they're talking about a very large number of women. In fact, they're claiming his butler kept a black book that had 80 women in the book. So when they were talking about, what was it? Mitt Romney. Remember he made that statement about, a binder full of women. Like he literally had a binder full of underage girls. And so another case I compare it to is, I think about the case of Albert Wilson. The college student who got 12 years in prison, who was just convicted. You guys look it up. Albert Wilson, 23 years old, just got sent to prison for 12 years for kissing a white girl. Not penetrating, not raping, not even oral sex, but literally kissing the white girl. They were together for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Literally for 5 minutes. And there's no evidence, no proof, nothing. She had, I think, scars on her thighs. And she 2 months later, or a month later, when she claimed that it happened, she said, well, he did it. He put the scars on my thighs, but there's no proof of that. They said she acted like she was upset and had, whatever, PTSD. So they assumed, it must have been the black man. The black man must have did it, right? There was literally no proof there. And what was fascinating about the Albert Wilson case, where this young man has got 12 years in prison. He's convicted now. He's in jail now. He's locked up now. It's not like it's a case going on. It's already, convictions been handed down by all white jury. I talked to my friend who's a good lawyer. And one of the things he hit me up with is he said, well, Doc, be cautious when you say that he got convicted of rape and he didn't actually have sex with her. You don't technically have to penetrate someone to be accused of rape. I said, okay. So I said, okay, fine. All right, let's play that game. Let's play that game. Even though I don't really, yeah, of course, okay, you can penetrate somebody with an object, maybe, orally, whatever it is, whatever the criteria might be. I was like, okay, fine. But I said, okay, so if you're telling me that a person does not have to have sex in order to be accused of rape, then I want to ask you a question. That what you're basically saying is that a woman can rape a man, right?
Whoa, come on, Doc.
Right. Really, because that means apparently you don't need to have a penis to rape somebody. So a woman can rape a man. So I said, tell me how many women, name me any women anywhere that you can think of anywhere that have been sent to prison for 12 years for raping a man.
Zero.
Like where the man, and I said, lay out this scenario. Imagine if the man went to the police and said, I got raped by a woman. And they're like, well, what happened? And he's like, well, she didn't penetrate me, but I have a bruise and she caused the bruise. I don't have any proof of that, but you got to take my word for it. And there's a little bit of her DNA on my chest, which is what happened in the Albert Wilson case. There was DNA on her chest area from kissing. There wasn't
saliva. Yes, saliva DNA.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So he said. So imagine again. Everybody, imagine this with me. Tell me what you think. Do you think would you believe it or would you think it's BS? Tell me. Say I believe you or it's BS. So I was raped by a woman. She didn't penetrate me, but there's DNA from her saliva on my chest. And I have a bruise on my thigh, and I'm telling you she did it, and there's no proof. You can only take my word for it, and I want you to lock her up and send her to prison for the next 12 years. How far would that fly in the court of law? And we were together for 5 minutes. We were alone for 5 minutes. How far would they go? Like, would you all believe me, or do y'all think it was BS? Wow. Chili Willie says BS. Glenn says BS. Okay, right. There's no scenario you can imagine it. So really, it's just this really crazy, weird world we live in, where we are, where we're just falling, we're believing things that are just simply not believable, or things that just don't have enough credibility that you can comfortably condemn a person to death. Because I'm sorry, getting 12 years in prison at the age of 23 and then being a registered sex offender for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
That's a life sentence.
Yes.
So to me, the seriousness of the punishment should be matched by a seriousness of the proof. And what you're doing is you're taking unserious amounts of evidence, which is pretty much no evidence. Even with Cosby, there was no evidence presented.
That's right.
It was literally the words of a white woman, and you're sending these black men to prison forever. And so with that said, I want to ask you, how is it that, and I think we know the answer to this, but I'd like to get your interpretation. How is it that I can point to the case of a wealthy black man, Bill Cosby, and who was sent to prison with no evidence, a not so wealthy black man, Albert Wilson, who's also sent to prison with no evidence. But here you have a man, Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on, Doc.
Where there is tons of evidence. There's receipts everywhere. There's black books. There's videotape. There's all kinds of more videotape than R. Kelly ever made, I'm sure. Or I'm sure that they could have a nice comparison between the two. And this man gets pretty much nothing. In fact, not only does he not get an adequate prison sentence, but he also still has wealthy friends. He's still got connections to Harvard University. He's still got connections to people like Alan Dershowitz. How does that work, Vicki? Break that down for me.
It works because it is the system of white supremacy is working the way they intended it to work. And that is to benefit them. And that is to trap us in the system. It's working exactly the way some of us say, let's reform the system. Some of us talk about training folk and training officers. No, baby. It keeps getting these types of outcomes because it was made that way, which is why I'm a big advocate of us doing for ourselves, Dr. Boyce. That is the reason why I'm a big advocate of us even starting to police our own communities, Dr. Boyce. That's the reason why I align myself and I support such organizations as the 10,000 Fearless, which is a brainchild of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which is not limited to folks that are registered members of the Nation of Islam. These are folk that believe in going into Black neighborhoods, making making them safe and decent places to live? Do you know that they also have conflict resolutionists among them? Do you know, for example, shout out to Brother Willie Muhammad, who I've personally interviewed some time back, where do you know gangbangers in New Orleans where he lives, instead of them going to the police when they have a beef, do you know that they contact them and that they mediate their differences there, sir? These are things that we have to begin to start to do now, as well as the intervention of Black folk such as yourself, Dr. Boyce, and members of the Nation of Islam that believe in doing for self, having your own establishments and so forth, because these things we find are connected to what? Criminal behavior, it's connected to crime. Poverty is always connected to that, no matter what people group is involved. But can I just go back to another point you just said? You just said something. You said that you were cautioned about not saying about the rape, and that it not really being rape, it's technically still could be rape, even though there was no penetration or what have you. Let's talk about Cardi B then. I'm thinking about Cardi B. I'm thinking about not third party antics. I'm not talking about gossip. I'm talking about confessions from Cardi B, Dr. Boyce, who told us, okay, with her own lips, actually repeatedly, in more ways than one, that it was the understanding that she was supposed to be engaged in sex with men and led them to believe that that's what they were going to do, deceiving them, right? She acknowledged that she would drug them, Dr. Boyce, and she wouldn't just drug them, she would also take their money. Many have said that in certain parts of the United States, that if she did, which in some cases, it's not that she denied not having sex with any of those guys. The point is, if she did engage with sex, even with a fraction of those men, some folks says that in some states, that technically is rape because she actually drugged them. You understand? And they were unaware of it. So let's talk about Sister Cardi B. Right now, Cardi B, she still has massive endorsements, Dr. Boyce. Tom Ford and all the rest of them, they're still bringing her in to represent their brands. She's being celebrated. Is it because, Dr. Boyce, that most of her audience is Black people? Is it because that the men that she most likely took advantage of and raped and robbed and allegedly raped and robbed? I'm saying allegedly raped specifically, since she didn't mention about the sexual portion of it, but for sure she acknowledges and admits that she robbed and drugged. I want to know, is it because they were very likely Black men? Is this the reason why Tom Ford and some of the other major brands are still endorsing her? Is this the reason why she's still being supported? Because they don't care about Black folk? What does that say? She's not being held to account on those kinds of things. So we're seeing this racist element, and we're also seeing this specific and strategic element to intentionally go after the Black man. That's what I want us to not miss in all of this, in order to make them the face so that they could be the cover for, in order to distract from the Epsteins and the Dershowitz and the Catholic Church and the Strauss-Kahns and the other Hollywood folk and the other too many more that are too many to name. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking about right now in light of this.
I'll say this. I think that when you talk about Jeffrey Epstein, and you're talking about the differential in terms of how they're dealing with situations involving Black men versus the way you might deal with an Epstein or Cardi B. I think that those situations really represent white supremacy. Just sort of, just in a real raw form, where you don't look at what people say, you don't listen to what they say, you look at what they do.
Yes.
And so, while they might tell you, in one conversation, oh, we believe in fairness and justice and equity, you gotta really look at the fine print. You gotta look at what they're actually doing. Yes. And so when you look at all the statistics that pretty much show, without question, there is nothing that disputes this. When Black men are accused of the same crimes as white men, they get a worse sentence.
Yes.
And then there's also the gender bias in America, the feminization of America, which is interesting. I saw where Brother Wesley Muhammad was talking about Black men being filled with estrogen now. Yes. Group of people anywhere. We've been emasculated beyond recognition. And, and so that reflects the gender bias, right? So yes. Cardi B, if you think about Cardi B, the words that came out of Cardi's mouth, like I love to drug men and rob them, or drug them and violate them by making them have sex with a tranny, and also
yes.
and then the people's knee-jerk defense of that is fascinating, because if a black man said something like that, he would be done.
Whew.
There is absolutely no way that a black man in mainstream America, anyway, who's got endorsement deals from, who are those companies that have those endorsements? She got endorsement deals with everybody.
Yes.
So there's no way a black man could ever utter words like that, and a black man shouldn't utter those words. I mean, you don't brag about drugging and robbing people, drugging and sexually violating people. That's insanity, right?
Yes.
But a black man saying those same words would be done, no questions asked. He could be accused of those things.
Accused of them.
With no proof. And don't let him get accused by a white woman. It's over.
The scientist, what was the scientist's name that you covered, Dr. Boyce? The scientist.
Which scientist?
The scientist that was accused by some white women of basically a basic brush. I forget his name. He has a TV show where he discusses things related to the solar system.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes. Remember till that investigation was over? Remember they pulled his stuff, for a minute and put him to the side, both of the networks that he worked for. And just recently, I think I read that he was supposed to be coming back because of that. But remember, they went on ahead and pulled that right away and made him do that. I forget the other gentleman's name, black guy. He used to wear locks. He used to do like a hip hop show.
You're talking about AJ.
AJ as well. Automatically, but even before there's an investigation, before there's a trial, before they're able to vet the veracity of those allegations and the claims. So not only do we not wait until they have their day in court, and God forbid it's actually a fair court proceeding to where it's not an all-white jury, a racist judge, a racist DA, and those other kind of things. But also, they're already judged in the court of public opinion. So that's intentionally set up, you understand, to go after that individual. So that's what I was thinking about those gentlemen, just those few cases in recent history. And I hope, Dr. Boyce, that you talk a little bit more about our brother Albert Wilson. You know why? Because we've been discussing it too. You have been on the front lines of this, and shout out to you for doing that. But you shared some breaking news to which we took and covered on our show. And I don't want folks to forget this young man that you talked about from Jesse Rogers, this gentleman that worked directly with Albert Wilson. And he was provided inside information that's not being told in mainstream news, things that folk are getting wrong. And remember, one of the things among many that was said about him was the fact that I'm going directly to what this says. Don't forget this. He says that the original charge brought against Mr. Wilson was rape by force. In the preliminary hearing, the district attorney had the accuser take the stand and asked her explicitly. So just so folks know, the preliminary hearing means that's a hearing that's prior to the actual date of trial, right? So they're at a preliminary hearing, specifically asked this accuser, this white girl of Mr. Wilson, did he force you? Accuser said no. The court went to recess and came back with 2 new charges against Mr. Wilson. One was rape by fear/intoxication instead of force, and a second new charge stemming from the dance floor. A second charge, it says here, was not pursued by the court. Let's not forget that. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget that. Also, it says that 2 of the jurors wrote to the judge after deliberation that they were pressured into a decision, one of which has said she actually believed Albert to be innocent. The lawyer motioned for a retrial based on that and was denied by the judge. One more thing. It also says the prosecuting attorney was found guilty of misconduct multiple times stemming from past cases. Not all, but many were related to sexual accusations. A lot of those were retried and even dropped.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And that's, and I think that's what's fascinating. If you really pay attention to what's happening in the media, you'll really see that things have not changed that much, from 100 years ago in terms of how the black man is seen in the media, the way stories are reported. With the Albert Wilson situation, I was stunned by the way they just left out massive details.
Yes.
They literally, I mean, they the way one newspaper, I can't remember which one, but the way they wrote about the story was like it was fact that he raped her, and I was reading, I was specifically looking for evidence. I was looking for them to say the reason that they know that he raped her is because of this. They provided nothing. They just said this black man raped this Negro, raped this white woman, and it must have happened because he got convicted, and that's all there is to it. There was no conversation whatsoever about the details of the situation, and that is very dangerous. And I think that we should pay attention to that. If anybody wants to go check out the case, the website is freealbertwilson.com, freealbertwilson.com. The hashtag people are using is freealbertwilson. I spoke to his family, or not his family, excuse me, his roommate the other day. His roommate called me. We talked on the phone for a little bit, and he gave me some details on it in terms of the background and everything. And we covered all that in another video. So if you go to YouTube and just look up my name, Boyce Watkins, and Albert Wilson, you'll find all different kinds of videos and content we put out there about this, because I think it's something that people should know about, and it's something you have to be warned.
Yes.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's like just to be silly, to make a joke about it, because like to laugh, to keep from crying. I watch Game of Thrones. Anybody else watch Game of Thrones? You ever watch Game of Thrones, Vicky?
I haven't gotten a chance to see it, Doc. I don't have cable either.
You should watch it. It's a very white show, but it's a good show. And they have this saying in Game of Thrones where they warn everybody, winter is coming, because in the show, winter lasts for like 30 years, and really black people, we got to warn black people, winter is coming.
Wow.
Winter, just like the snow is white supremacy, winter is coming for you. Like, it's coming for your family, coming for your son. You must be careful, because something has happened. It's not to say that it hasn't always been bad, but I really think with the Me Too era, it's become something very different. And like Tavis Smiley used to say, when America gets sick, black people get pneumonia. Well, right now America is mentally ill, mentally sick, and black people are being affected by that mental illness in a major catastrophic.
And Tavis Smiley is another one, Dr. Boyce.
Oh, that's right. He got hit by the Me Too. I mean, and I think that's what it is. It's one of the things where any woman that wants to accuse a black man of anything can accuse him, no proof, no whatever, and they're gonna take him down. That's why I would say, if you are a black man and you have a position of prominence or power, and let's say you're making big money at that corporation, or you're on TV, or America loves you, you better save your money and prepare your defenses. Store your nuts for the winter. Because because when they come get you and they're gonna take you down, everything you worked for your whole life will be gone. Like AJ from 106 in Park.
Yes,
he's done. It doesn't matter. They could clear everything up later on. Find out that these accusations were baseless. Doesn't matter. White people will not put him back on TV ever again. He will never be a host. I mean, a super white show like Extra or whatever he was on. They won't even take the chance. They'll be like, we'll try somebody else. And so let me mention this too. I want to show you something, Vicky.
Okay.
Everybody hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done this. I'm speaking with Miss Vicky Dillard from FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com, and we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, a very wealthy man who's been accused of, basically he's the white R. Kelly. That's the easiest way for me to describe it. I mean, underage girls, piles and piles of them, videotapes, all of that. Just imagine R. Kelly if he was whiter, richer, and more destructive, right? If he were worse, take R. Kelly, multiply by 3, make him white and rich, and you got Jeffrey Epstein. And the other interesting thing about Epstein is this. Let me show you. Hit the thumbs up button. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe at drboycetv.com. Follow Vicky Dillard on all social media. Look up Vicky Dillard. Please follow her and support her as well. Let me show you this picture here.
Okay.
So you see that? Can you see that, Vicky?
Yes.
Flight logs show.
Wow.
Bill Clinton flew on sex offenders' jet much more than previously known. Wow. So this man had friends all the way to the top. Bill Clinton was getting
President of the United States.
And remember, Jeffrey Epstein, has been accused by many of providing, like pimping women, not just molesting them, but hooking his wealthy white friends up.
Exactly.
His white friends up. So listen to this. It says here, and I'm gonna shut this off and I'll read it. It says former President Bill Clinton was a much more frequent flyer on a registered sex offender's infamous jet than previously reported, with flight logs showing the former president taking 26 trips.
Oh my gosh.
Aboard the Lolita Express, even apparently ditching his Secret Service detail for at least 5 of the flights. So Bill Clinton told his Secret Service agents, hey, nothing to see here. Y'all just wait on the side. I'll be all right. Right? On this jet that was known as one of the places where this guy was hooking his rich friends up with underage girls. Clinton's presence aboard Jeffrey Epstein's Boeing 727 on 11 occasions has been reported, but flight logs show the number is more than double that. And so it looks almost like they seem like they're insinuating that they tried to hide the fact that Clinton was on this plane so much. And trips between 2001 and 2003 included extended junkets around the world with Epstein and fellow passengers identified on manifests by their initials or first names, including Tatiana.
Wow.
The tricked out jet, because on these jets, on these private jets, you got to put on the manifest apparently who's on the plane, right? The tricked out jet earned its Nabokov inspired nickname because it was reportedly outfitted with a bed where passengers had group sex with young girls.
Ooh.
Bill Clinton, associated with a man like Jeffrey Epstein, who everyone in New York, certainly within inner circles, knew was a pedophile, said Conchita Sarnoff of the Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit Alliance to Rescue Victims of Trafficking, and author of the book on Epstein called Trafficking. Why would a former president associate with a man like that? I don't know. I don't know why they would associate with him. What do you think, Vicky? That's just so surprising, right? Epstein, who counts among, let me tell you more. He's got a lot of famous friends. Epstein, who counts among his pals, royal figures, heads of state, celebrities, and fellow billionaires, spent 13 months in prison and home detention for solicitation and procurement of minors for prostitution. He allegedly had a team of traffickers who procured girls as young as 12 to service his friends on Orgy Island, an estate on Epstein's 72-acre island called Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So there's more to this story, but I want to try to help us kind of see this. Now, I want everybody mentally, and tell me what you think. Give me your thoughts on this. If you're a little concerned, just say, I'm a little concerned, right? Everybody was a little concerned, saying, I'm a little concerned. So let's back up. Let's backpedal on this a little bit, right? So what they're basically kind of insinuating in all these pieces that are coming out is that this is not a matter of, one or two Lone Rangers doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Exactly.
These are not isolated instances of perverted men just, going overboard with sexual activity.
Yes.
This is systematic.
Exactly.
Like this is on an aggregated massive scale that affects lots and lots of people. This almost it feeds into the whole theories around, you remember Pizzagate?
Yes.
This is almost saying like they doing pimping on an industrial level. Like
come on. They're
not just $2 pedophiles, they're $1 million pedophiles and really have a process and a system behind the pedophilia. Now go back. Vicky, I want you to talk now after I say this, and then I want you, before you go back and look at it in that perspective and understand that it's systematic, now I want you to go back to Oprah versus Michael Jackson. Oprah Winfrey, this Black woman in Hollywood, who knows everybody,
right?
To everyone. And I'm not even going to talk about the rumors about Oprah and whatever.
Yeah.
We're not even going to go into that. But Oprah, you can't tell me Oprah did not know about the systematic pedophilia occurring in Hollywood and in the rich white elite. And so this nonsense that Oprah lays out that, I'm going to help protect, I'm going to go help protect sexual assault victims by going after a dead man.
Come on.
That just doesn't fly. Because
yes.
Living men who, sure, if it was possible that Michael Jackson did, so again, he was proven, the FBI cleared him.
He was acquitted.
The FBI, but even if it was the case that Michael did something that he shouldn't have done, I don't know. We don't know for sure, but you got to prove something before you before you believe something like that.
Yes.
Even if that were the case, you're talking about one or two victims. In these situations, you're talking about hundreds of victims. Like they said that the number of women in that man's black book was like approaching like 80 to 100, but they said that they believe the number of victims was in the hundreds.
My
And so
goodness.
Oprah and Gail out here trying to do the right thing. We're trying to protect people from the predators. You know, R. Kelly and Michael Jackson are small time compared to these guys. And
Yes.
you ain't said nothing about them. Vicky, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you are exactly right. I hope, because this is the network, this is the channel, right, Dr. Boyce, for intelligent Black people. I hope that they are paying attention to some of the things that we are reading, vet, listen, scrutinize, investigate what we're saying. You are not crazy. You are not out of your mind. When we look at the documented history, Dr. Boyce, the history of this country, when we look at the pattern of this country, we find that this is what she has always done. You know, Dr. Maya Angelou said that when people show you who they are the first time, she says, believe them. This is who America is. And it is these traits that these white men, they're primarily white men that are in large number pedophiles like this large number of white men that we're finding with all types of sexual deviancy. It's becoming embarrassing, Dr. Boyce, and it's becoming obvious to the world. And folks are starting to scratch their head and wonder, is something wrong with them? So you ask me, I believe that's why they intentionally have to throw in every now and then a blackface in order to make it appear that they are not as anti-human, let's call them, as they really look, that they are not as sick and as savage as they really are. So they intend to emphasize and to make the face of that sexual deviancy the Black man. Now, the systematic, how systematic and institutionalized this behavior seems to be, the tentacles, how far their tentacles reach. Dr. Boyce, it's not to some person that's working at a Taco Bell, no disrespect for those who's doing that, admirable work. It's not to some landscaper. It's not to even some neurosurgeon. It's not to some CPA. It's not to some, grocery worker. You're finding links to former presidents of the United States who had access and charge over what? CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, had international relations. These are the folk that we're discussing, including the Alan Dershowitz and his connection as a renowned constitutional lawyer, as a renowned constitutional professor who brags about the previous presidents and senators that were his former students, Dr. Boyce. This is something else. These are they. These are they. The rule makers, the lawmakers are also the law breakers, and they attempt to rule over you. They attempt to sentence you, and they are working together. They're collaborating, their own code. Dr. Boyce, I'm gonna say this as a side note. In my state, on my Instagram page, and you mentioned already, they can follow me at Vicky X Dillon on Instagram. I'm mentioning that for a reason because I uploaded this video, right, on Instagram, on my Instagram page. Dr. Boyce, here in my state, now I'm from Mississippi, but I live in the West now, I'm in Colorado. Republican female senator named Vicky Marble is her name, right? Old school white lady. She took to the floor in Congress right here in Colorado. And do you know, she was one of 3 or 4 people that voted against basically this equal pay legislation. And she's a woman. And she didn't just vote against it for whatever her reasons were, that's fine, right? But guess what she did? She took to the floor, Dr. Boyce, and specifically said that she could not support legislation that was so anti-white male. She didn't stop there, Dr. Boyce. I got it on my Instagram page. She didn't stop there. She went on to say all of the wonderful things that she says that white men has done for this country, she says. I was too through, and needless to say, that started a whole lot of chatter both on my Twitter page. It's got a few thousand, as well as my Instagram page. It has several hundred, approaching 1,000. And so I'm telling you, they are on code. Do you hear me? Their women are on code to help cover them, and they rewrite American history. They have revisionist history now to rewrite it, to make it appear that they are heroes. That's why I say America celebrates their killers, right? The John McCains of the world, the people that started illegal wars and did all kind of stuff. We celebrate those, but then we say Nipsey Hussle is a problem. You understand? And those like him back in the day when he was gangbanging. But yet we, the founding fathers of this country, who were traitors, by the way, many of them, Dr. Boys, who were not trying to be a part of the Union. They were part of the Confederacy. There are monuments erected after them. Their streets are named after them. There are libraries named after them. So in the same way they try to rewrite this, relabel this, and do a form of a new PR campaign for theirs, I'm just trying to see when we are going to rise up and use our voices. We don't need to excuse bad behavior amongst our people. But I'm just making the point that we must also not ignore who created these conditions. We must not ignore, we admit, oh yeah, we've been in some form of oppression for 400 plus years, but we don't acknowledge the actual real world effects of that oppression. And at the same time of us acknowledging the systems of white supremacy, what we're going to do about it, and what it caused, the condition that it caused our people to be in the present socially engineered circumstances that we're dealing with today, we can also still hold each other accountable. And I'm just simply saying that I believe that we need to come up with more innovative ways of addressing Black trauma and Black issues, is what I'm trying to say. Because we cannot take our cues from our 464-year-old open endings. We can't do that. We can't do that anymore, Dr. Boys. We cannot do that. And I think this is a shame. This is widespread. This is more than systematic. This is more than institutionalized. I'm saying this is global. This is an international issue because of the mere connections that those to whom we're talking about, their tentacles stretch that far, and we should be concerned. We can't hear you, Doc.
A second. Okay, sorry, I muted myself. Everybody, this is Miss Vicki Dillon. Vicki Dillon is with FlyNubianQueenTV.com. She goes live Monday through Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So everybody subscribe at FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Please type that in, and also follow her at on all the social media platforms, Instagram, all the way across the board, and to make sure you support the sister, because we have to do that. Well, I mean, what she's basically saying is that what she's really saying in so many words. One of the things she's saying is that Black media is important. You know, other people get to tell their story. They get to shape their narrative. They get to define the world they want to live in. We need to get in the habit of shaping our own narrative.
Yes.
So if you are in alignment with what you've heard tonight, if you agree, if what you heard resonates with you, please say so. Say it. Say yes, it resonates with me, and just say it right now, please, because I want to hear it from you. It validates us. We want to validate you. We want to validate each other. So we don't need validation from other people.
Yes.
And also, we would like for you, if you could, we would like to humbly request that you will support Black media. That means that you will share the content that is created on these platforms. If you, again, if you think that we out here cooning and acting crazy and lying to you, then don't do it. But if you think that we are on the right path and that we are representing something that benefits you and your family, we would like for you to help to push the message far and wide. That means if you got a Facebook page, share the video. If you got Instagram, YouTube, say something. If we throw out a hashtag, use the hashtags. Just like there's another hashtag that Vicki has it. What's your hashtag? Is it Talk Black to Me, Vicki?
Talk Black to Me. Come on, Doc. Talk Black to Me.
Yeah, the hashtag Talk Black to Me, or the hashtag Dr. Boyce Watkins, whatever hashtag you want to use that resonates with you. It all comes through you. It all comes down to you. But we're asking you for a partnership. We're asking you for an alliance so that we can have enough Black media bubbling up where when it's time to tell a story, it's our story.
Come
when
on.
it's time to share a narrative, it's our narrative. When it's time to have a conversation, it's our conversation.
Yes.
And that's what this is all about. So if you want to know what the Black agenda is or what part of it is, Part of the Black agenda is for Black people to describe the narrative for Black people, and not for us to get our cues from people who are always going to tell lies on us, who are always going to misconstrue us, who are always going to misrepresent what Blackness is all about, who are always going to blame their problems on us and then blame our problems on us too, even though we created their problems and they created our problems. So
that's right.
You know, so I think that's important, you know, because I see a lot of times where we have so many Black folks who don't know who they are, and all they're doing is they're robotically responding to whatever white people tell them is important at that moment, you know.
Yes.
So like, for example, you're a Black liberal or a Black feminist. So when the white liberals say, oh, well, we're all mad about what, you know, about the border. So you start getting mad about the border. Okay, wait, now we're all mad about you know, saving the environment. So you start getting mad about the environment. It doesn't mean that those things don't matter. They can't matter to you. It just means you need to not let the tail wag the dog.
Come on now.
Right?
Come on, Dr. Boyce.
They're supposed to be following you. You ain't supposed to be following them. When it comes to your Black politicians, you're not supposed to be doing what agenda they hand to you. They're supposed to be following the agenda that you hand to them. And that's what we're doing by building Black media. So everybody in here, please, if you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please make sure you do that. Don't cost you a nickel to hit the thumbs up button. Everybody,
that's right.
Facebook, hearts and likes, please do that. Please share. Also, if you want to help support on a financial level, which we would appreciate it, if you gave us 1% of the money we give the white folks every week, we could do a lot with that. Free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Also, if you want to get some flashcards or workbooks or something for your children as the summer begins, please go to blackfinancialintelligence.com. That's blackfinancialintelligence.com. We have financial workbooks, we have financial flashcards, we have Powernomics, all kinds of books and things like that.
Powerful.
So we're not asking you for a donation. We're asking you for a trade. And we're asking you for an investment. You invest in us, we invest in you. And that's how you create a strong community and a strong economy. So I want to say thank you very much, Vicki Dillard. I appreciate your time.
Dr. Boyce, can I say something real quick here?
Of course you can.
Really quick. I wanted to bring this out about Alan Dershowitz. Again, Alan Dershowitz, this white man who has long been accused of sexual impropriety with these young girls, but yet he maintains a powerful position all through CNN and Fox News and all these other major outlets, right? He's still held as a top constitutional attorney and so forth, right? And law professor. Dr. Boyce, why am I bringing this up? And I want to give us one quick example of what I mean when I say it's how they use the Black man to make him the face for, you know, white sexual deviancy, and really to cover their massive savage behaviors. That's really what that's meant to do. But I want to say something about that. I want us to know that this Alan Dershowitz, and I'm reading some of this information is from the Miami Herald that was just released on April 16th, right? Where it's talking about new Jeffrey Epstein accuser goes public, defamation lawsuit targets Dershowitz, right? Watch this. What I find fascinating is, just very quickly, it says how a farmer's affidavit is talking about is one of 15 exhibits attached to a defamation complaint filed in the federal court. And I have the complaint here. Actually, it's a link to the complaint that was filed in the federal court in the Southern District of New York by Virginia Robert Guthrie, one of Epstein's victims, against Alan Dershowitz, one of Epstein's most vocal and powerful attorneys. It talks about the fact that in the past, she has said in the past court filings that Dershowitz 80 knew about and participated in sex trafficking operation involving underage girls and run by Epstein and Maxwell, and she was forced to have sex with Dershowitz and other prominent wealthy men when she was underage. Now, mind you, her issue is also the fact that Dershowitz, incredibly alleged here, I'm going to say, has, of course, he railed against those accusations, but has made the point, though, this young lady made the point that, let me skip down here, and she says, I know that standing up for myself and others will cause Mr. Dershowitz and Mr. Epstein to redouble their efforts to destroy me and my reputation, but I can no longer sit by and not respond, as my complaint shows my abusers have sought to conceal their guilt behind a curtain of lies. My complaint calls for the accounting to which I and other victims are entitled. I don't have time to read through the rest of this, but my point is this. Don't forget the connections that this man has to who? Presidents, plural, of the United States, right? Don't forget the connections that this man has. Remember, he brags about those that are on the high courts, that are in the, that's sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States, I believe Kavanaugh is one of his students. He taught these individuals. So this man's power, this man's connections are limitless, and they're involved in the judiciary. Why is that important? Because if he is accused of something, if allegations are brought, right? If he is to stand before a judge and be sentenced, and even if a jury comes back and says guilty, we know that the judges, oftentimes in many of these cases, have discretion so that they can deviate from the sentencing guidelines, right? That means that there are things that can be done, that if he has connections with the appellate courts, if they were to appeal the other side, that he could have a favor with that. But I want to say this Alan Dershowitz is the same one who has gone on a nonstop, relentless campaign against the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Minister Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Boyce, his soldiers have stayed in the streets in urban areas to try to clean up where Black folks are. This is the man you're trying to destroy. So if Black men and Black folks are, because we're in a bad condition, you're coming after the very man that's doing everything he can to help clean up those conditions. Dr. Boyce, are you aware of the fact that after a while that the Nation of Islam members, also known at one time as the dope busters, they were so effective in cleaning up the Black community, that drug crimes were going down, that peace was going up, and all these other wonderful things. They were getting paid even by the government as business owners. But congressmen like Congressman King and others that were in the Congress, they were the ones to help stop their funding, and it was nothing but evidence, nothing but receipts. They were able to prove the effects that they were having on the Black community. These are the men. This is the organization that Alan Dershowitz was one of the biggest voices speaking against. So you're trying to prevent the cleanup, you understand, of the Black community and Black people, and him repeatedly coming after the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on unjustified claims. And I'm going to say this. Do you know that Minister Farrakhan and his research team have directly addressed Alan Dershowitz? Do you know, and I'm talking about fairly recently, and they have asked for an open showdown, Dr. Boyce? Where they were bringing all of their people and researchers before the American public, all of the American public. And guess what? Alan Dershowitz is on record just a few months ago as declining that invitation. So what are you scared of, Alan Dershowitz? What are you afraid of? So I just wanted to throw that out there to keep in mind that at the same time where they're committing these little nasty, disgusting, savage behaviors, credibly alleged savage, disgusting behaviors, they're at the same time, they're trying to destroy Black men and those that are trying to liberate and defend and fight for Black people. Don't forget that. I wanted to point that out.
Well, Alan Dershowitz is a guy that, it's the Jewish thing, right? He's a defender of Israel under all circumstances, and I see him as a corrupt individual in that regard. I think that he'll throw anybody under the bus for the sake of allowing Israel to do whatever horrible thing it wants to do. And we've seen the Minister Farrakhan's been a target of his for a very long time.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like Dershowitz has his own problems right now. I was looking at some of these accusations and allegations, and he ain't got time to be trying to judge or condemn nobody.
Come on.
And really, this guy Epstein, I mean, he's, Harvard University was taking money from him, right? So you've got a lot of these institutions that, and these wealthy, powerful individuals who are deeply connected to a person that, has been convicted of molesting hundreds of young women.
Dr. Boyce, excuse me, you haven't taught at a college universities for 25 years. Like what would you say some of the connections or some of the impacts that could have, knowing that someone is putting, either donating large sums of money, having connections like that, especially in an institution like Harvard? What would you say would be some of the impacts of that?
I think that, what it kind of does for sure is, money is powerful. Money affects, who your friends are. You can buy a lot of your friends. A lot of people, if you give them money, they'll leave you alone. And a lot of times when you see somebody under attack, it's not because they necessarily did anything worse than what anybody else did. It usually a lot of times it might have to do with money. It might have to do with, like Bill Cosby. I believe a lot of Bill Cosby's accusers came from the fact that he stopped paying them. So that's where you got to be careful. If you, first of all, you shouldn't do too much dirt if you're gonna do any dirt. But if you do the dirt and you're paying somebody to not talk about the dirt, then you have to keep paying them, because
Yes.
when you stop paying them, it's like taking drugs away from a drug addict, and the drug addict is going to act a fool when you take away his crack pipe. So a lot of Bill Cosby's accusers, in my opinion, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were financial drug addicts. Basically, they were addicted to Cosby money, and Cosby was taking care of them, hooking them up for years. That's why they remained silent. And then when the money stopped, suddenly it's like, okay, I'm going to go back into victim mode, and I'm going to make myself a victim. Now, the thing is that what that's fascinating is in some of these cases, I believe Cosby might have done some of these things, but at the same time, I believe that there was obviously an agreement, a trade, just where somebody said, "Look, pay me and I won't say nothing," So to me, the once you take a payment to remain silent about an alleged injustice that was done to you, that minimizes your credibility and your
Right.
ability to later on to pursue justice for what allegedly happened to you. But it's the white woman's privilege in particular that leads them to feel that they have the right to double jeopardy against anybody. Like,
Yeah.
I can take your money in exchange for my silence, but then I still don't have to be silent. Right. There is no honor expected among white women. So I can take your money and promise you I'm going to be silent, and then still come back later on and act like we never made a deal in the first place. And I think that part is the part that I think is interesting, because I can tell you, if somebody did something wrong to me, somebody came to my house and stole something, somebody violated me in some way, and they said, "Hey, boys, if we give you $1 million, will you keep it to yourself?" And I say, "Sure." And I take the million. And then let's say I say, "Well, on second thought, I think I want another million." And they say, "Oh, boys, we made an agreement. We gave you the million. We were square." And then I say, "No, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna be a victim now. I'm back in victim mode. I got this. I can hold this over you forever." That's why you got to be careful about making deals with the devil, because the devil don't play fair. The devil does not play fair. So, for example, when you think about the death of Nipsey Hussle, people say, "Well, was this guy connected to the government conspiracy? Was he an agent? Was he an informant? Whatever." Well, we know he was an informant, right? There's no question about that. That's why he and Nipsey got into it, right? Al Sharpton, we know Al Sharpton was an informant,
right?
He admitted to that, right? And my argument is that once you are an informant, once you make a deal with the devil ain't gonna let you just walk.
Never. Come on.
Right? You're always going to be vulnerable. The devil can always show back up on your doorstep and say, the old agreement we made back in the day where I said I would just let you go on with your life. Well, I've just changed the terms of that agreement. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So I think that's really so you can really compare, the underlying, I think, accurate suspicion people might have of, say, Sharpton and his relationship with the feds, or Nipsey's killer and his relationship with the feds. Or if you can compare that actually to the interaction Cosby had with the women he allegedly abused. It's like, Cosby made this deal and started paying them money to be quiet. Well, you better keep on paying that money. You're going to pay them whatever they want, because they can always come back and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to be a victim now because you wouldn't give me what I want." So half the stuff that y'all see in the media a lot of times is about extortion. People doing a Cardi B on somebody, like Lawrence Taylor, that football player, when he got caught in a situation with an underage girl. The whole lowdown I got from the street on this, in terms of how it all went down, was it was a blackmail situation, and it was one of those scenarios where they fooled him into getting into a situation with an underage girl by having fake IDs and all, and they used date rape drugs and everything.
Wow.
And he was the victim of extortion. And when he would not pay the extortion, they said, "Okay, now we're going to go to Gloria Allred, and I'm going to be a victim now." And I'm going, so again, that was the take that I received from a pretty credible source from the street. So I'm not saying any of this is right or wrong or anything like that. I'm just here to try to say, to the brothers, like, be careful.
Yes.
What you get into, men are getting in trouble just for having sex nowadays, and they're labeling everybody a predator. You have sex, you get labeled as a predator, which I think is patently unfair. But I think that when you talk about real predatory behavior, I'm talking about behavior that is clearly inappropriate. I think it is fascinating that there is an imbalance in the way it's seen by media when it's a white man versus a black man. So with R. Kelly, I've never been a person that has been a fan of R. Kelly. I'm sorry, I can't. I was 15 years ago, I told black folks, I really don't, support him. He had the videotape. I don't care what the court said. It's a videotape. I'm sorry. But the thing is, I think the punishment has to fit the crime. And so this idea that you are going to selectively have selective outrage, selective persecution toward black people, but then walk right past guilty or more guilty white people, that's not going to fly with me. So what happens is people get confused. When I talk about R. Kelly, they think I'm defending him completely and totally as a person. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that this is not fair. Fairness means that if I do a level 2 crime, I'm supposed to get level 2 punishment. Level 5 crime means a level 5 punishment. For the black man, it means you do a level 1 crime, you get a level 9 punishment. That's not fair.
That's right.
And that's what I think people have to understand. So, Vicki, you know what? Alicia just came in here, and I think that she was been waiting for me to go running.
Yes. Shout out to your beautiful queen, Dr. Boyce, by the way. Yes, so this was fun. Thank you.
Yes, this was a blast. And everybody, one more time, Vicki Dillard, everybody, please, after this is over, go follow Vicki Dillard. Follow her on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Look up her name. And that's if you like what she had to say. If you like what she stands for, go find Vicki Dillard and follow her. Also, hit the like button, share button, subscribe button if you haven't done that. Also, this podcast is on iTunes. So look up my name on iTunes and you can find the podcast there, or Your Black World. That podcast is there as well. Last but not least, if you want to support and get some educational materials for your family, as you know, we believe that your university should be in your house. You have all the materials you need to do that. Go to blackfinancialintelligence.com. Somebody please type that in. That's blackfinancialintelligence.com. So thank you very much, Vicki. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Have a good night. And
good night, audience. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.